So, uh, have you ever looked at someone who made a big change in their life?
Oh,
Maybe learned a new skill, got healthier, started something new,
Mm.
and you just wondered, how did they do that?
Yeah. While you feel, well, kind of stuck.
Exactly. Like you're just doing the same things over and over, getting the same results.
It's a really common feeling, being
Mhm.
stuck like that.
Right.
And it makes you ask, is it just luck? Or is there something else going on, something people who make those shifts are actually doing differently?
It reminds me so much of that feeling when you first start learning something really new, like a language.
Oh, definitely.
At the beginning, it just feels impossible, right?
Oh.
Totally overwhelming.
So many words, so many rules.
Yeah, like trying to hold water in your hand.
Right. And you might think, okay, if I just power through, memorize every single word.
I'll be fluent.
Yeah. But the material we're diving into today, it points out it's not really just about that massive list.
It's more subtle.
It seems so. It's more about building small habits,
Yeah.
kind of shifting how you think about the whole process,
Mm-hmm.
and actually using what you learn,
Yeah.
little by little.
Taking tiny steps.
Exactly. And then suddenly things start clicking. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
And that's where it gets really interesting because this material uses that language learning journey as like a perfect analogy.
For any kind of change, right?
Exactly, for making any kind of change in life. It suggests these big transformations, they aren't usually one big dramatic thing.
Not an overnight success story.
No, they're the result of lots and lots of small changes piling up, adding up over time.
So that's kind of our mission for this deep dive then.
Yeah, let's unpack this source material. Let's really explore it and pull out the most valuable insights on how to actually make those positive changes.
Moving from feeling stuck to, well, actually seeing some progress.
And it's fascinating how this material is presented too.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, it doesn't just give advice. It's structured with tools to help you actually understand and apply the ideas.
Practical stuff.
Right. Like it even includes things like a vocabulary section.
Huh. To help you talk about it.
Yeah, to help articulate these concepts and exercises to practice them, comprehension questions.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes that learning how to think about change and even how to talk about it is part of the process itself.
Okay, so it's designed to be really practical, not just theory.
Seems like it.
Gives you the what and the how.
Right. Okay, so let's dig in. Let's start with that first big question the material tackles. If change sounds so exciting, a fresh start.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good on paper.
Yeah. Why do most of us struggle so much to actually make those changes? Why do we stay stuck?
Well, what's interesting is how direct the material is about this.
Mm.
It basically says, yeah, change is exciting in theory,
But.
but it's hard in practice.
Huh?
And it identifies some really common blockers.
Yeah.
Things that trip people up.
Okay, like what?
Well, fear of failure is a big one.
Ah, yes, that what if I try and I fail thought.
It can be totally paralyzing.
But the material pushes back on that.
It does. It points out that failure isn't really the exception. For most people who succeed at something difficult, failure is actually part of the path.
So it's not about avoiding failure.
No, the difference is that successful people, they decide to keep going despite it. And it flips the question too,
No, so.
It says, okay, think, what if I try and fail? But also ask, what if you try and you succeed?
Ah, that's a powerful reframe. Okay, what else holds people back?
Another barrier it highlights is just, well, not knowing where to start.
Yeah, that feeling of overwhelm again.
Right. You want things to be different, but the path forward, it feels totally unclear.
So you wait.
You wait. You get stuck waiting for some, perfect, detailed plan before you even take the first tiny step.
And that often goes hand in hand with negative self-talk, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The material talks about that inner voice.
The one saying, I'll never be good at this.
Or, going back to the analogy, I'm just not a language person. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those kinds of thoughts, they can just shut down progress before you even get started.
That internal dialogue is so powerful. And maybe the biggest trap the material mentions?
Let me guess. Waiting for motivation.
You got it. People saying, I'll start when I feel motivated, when I feel ready.
Right. But here's the kicker, the sort of surprising insight it reveals.
Which is?
Motivation often doesn't come before you start. It comes after you take action.
Oh, interesting. So you don't wait to feel it.
No.
Yeah.
Start, maybe just a tiny action, and that creates a little bit of momentum,
Ah.
which then fuels the motivation to keep going.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You take one small step, get a tiny positive result, and that feeling makes you want to take another.
Exactly. So the key lesson here really is understanding what tends to hold you back.
Recognizing those common barriers.
Yeah, like fear, lack of direction, negative self-talk, waiting for motivation. That's the crucial first step.
Once you can name them.
You can start to dismantle them, break them down.
Okay, so if those are the reasons we get stuck, how do we actually start making changes? What does the material suggest? How do we build that momentum?
Right. So this is where it really hammers home the power of small daily actions.
Not the big dramatic overhaul.
No, it directly challenges that idea.
Right.
Real lasting change. It's built gradually, incrementally.
And it uses that fantastic 1% rule, right?
Yes. The idea that if you just improve 1% every single day,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't sound like much.
Well, it sounds tiny.
But by the end of a year, you'll be 37 times better.
Wow. 37 times.
It's powerful because it taps into compounding. You know, like interest in a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Those tiny daily gains, they might seem insignificant at the time, but over weeks, months, a year, they build up into something massive.
And this connects directly to habits, doesn't it? It even mentions James Clear's work, Atomic Habits.
It does. And the point isn't just about getting a task done. It's that these small, consistent actions, they start to shape our identity.
How so?
Well, little by little, through the things you do regularly, you actually start to redefine who you see yourself as.
That's profound.
Yeah. And the material gives some great practical examples. Really simple stuff.
Like
Reading for just 10 minutes a day. Or practicing a skill, like English, for only 5 minutes daily.
just 5 minutes.
Just 5. Or even just consciously replacing one negative thought with a positive affirmation each day. Small things.
And I loved that real life example they mentioned too.
Oh, the person who became fluent.
Yeah. Just by consistently listening to podcasts every single day.
Right. No intense, complicated study plan.
No, just consistent, small engagement.
No.
Day after day after day.
That's the principle right there.
Mm-hmm.
Small, consistent actions compounded over time.
Mm-hmm.
They lead to significant results.
So the takeaway is pretty clear then.
Yeah. Start small, but start consistently. It really encourages you, the listener, to think about a change you want
Mm-hmm.
and identify just one small habit related to it
Mhm.
and start doing it today,
Not tomorrow.
not tomorrow. Today.
Okay, so small, consistent actions are key. Got it. But the material also stresses something maybe even more fundamental than just the actions.
You mean mindset.
Exactly, your mindset.
Absolutely crucial. How you think about your ability to change, your ability to grow, it makes a world of difference.
And the material brings up that distinction between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset.
Right. That's a big one.
Growth mindset being the belief that I can learn and improve.
With effort.
Yeah.
Versus the fixed mindset, which thinks,
I'll never be good at this, or this is just how I am.
and that core belief system, it dramatically impacts whether you even try things.
For sure.
And it even dips into a bit of the brain science behind it. It mentions a system in your brain, acts like a filter.
Oh, you mean the reticular activating system, RAS.
That's the one, the RAS.
Wow.
It tends to focus your attention on what you train it to notice.
Right. It's like when you learn a new word or buy a certain type of car.
Yeah, suddenly you see it everywhere.
Exactly. Your brain is now primed to pick it out.
Well, the material connects this directly to your mindset. It's fascinating.
How does that work?
If you constantly tell yourself, I can't do this, this is too hard, your brain's filter, your RAS, will literally find all the evidence around you to support that belief.
Wow. So it looks for proof you're right.
Looks for proof you're right that you can't.
Mm-hmm.
But if you consciously shift that internal talk,
To something more positive.
yeah, something like, I am improving every day, or I can figure this out, then your brain starts focusing on signs of progress, on opportunities instead.
So you're basically directing the filter.
Exactly. This is why consciously reprogramming your mind, as the material puts it, is so powerful.
Okay, so how do we actually do that reprogramming? Does it give tools?
It highlights 3 key practices, practical things.
Okay.
First, affirmations, using positive self-talk consistently. Statements like, I am capable of learning this, or I am getting better every day.
Actually saying them or thinking them?
Both can work. The key is repetition and belief. Second, visualization.
Picturing success.
Yeah, spending time vividly imagining yourself succeeding.
Hmm.
It sounds a bit out there, maybe, but it can actually help train your brain to believe it's possible,
Mm-hmm.
sort of tricking it in a good way.
Okay. Affirmations, visualization. What's the third?
Gratitude practice.
Gratitude. That comes up a lot in personal growth.
It does. Actively focusing on what's going well, even small things. It helps train your brain to look for the positive, to see possibilities, instead of just dwelling on problems and obstacles.
But it's not magic.
No, the material frames these as conscious ways to direct that internal filtering system,
Yeah.
training your brain to work for you, not against you.
Right. Okay, so we've got action, we've got mindset. Now, building on that, the material also tackles another huge barrier, the one that stops people cold, waiting for the right moment.
Yes. Or feeling like you need to be completely 100% ready before you start anything.
Yeah. And what's the hard truth here, according to the material?
You will likely never feel fully ready.
Never.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, but probably pretty realistic for most big changes.
So true.
And it uses that language learning example again really well here.
How so?
It talks about the hesitation to start speaking, the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Huge fear.
Waiting feels safer, right?
Yeah.
But the material suggests waiting actually makes it harder in the long run.
Why harder?
Because taking that first step, having that imperfect conversation, it shows you that mistakes are just, part of learning.
They don't kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And each conversation, even if you stumble, builds a tiny bit of confidence. It creates improvement in a way that just waiting for perfection, it never could.
Which leads to that core concept they emphasize.
Done is better than perfect.
Yes. I love that. It really pushes back against that tendency to just delay action forever.
Constantly tweaking, refining, waiting for everything to be just right.
But as the material argues, imperfect action, just taking a step, even when you feel unprepared, is always, always better than no action at all.
Always. If you wait for perfect, you simply never start. Full stop.
Whether it's learning English, starting a new habit, making a big life change.
The strong advice is just begin. Take that first small step. Even if it's messy, that's how you build momentum.
And the material actually throws down a challenge on this directly to you, the listener.
Oh, yeah. What's the challenge?
It asks you to think of one thing you've been postponing.
Okay.
Maybe it's practicing something you're trying to learn. Maybe it's starting that workout. Maybe reaching out for help on something.
Got it. One thing I'm putting off.
Right. And the challenge is take one small step towards that thing today.
Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Even if it's tiny.
What's powerful about that, I think, is the understanding of the chain reaction.
Explain that.
Action creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence makes the next action easier. It all starts with that first, often imperfect step.
Don't wait for the perfect moment.
The material urges you. Make today the start day. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of things shaping us, there's one more big area the material covers. How much our environment influences our habits and decisions.
Ooh, yes. It's not just about our internal world, is it?
No. It's also about who and what we surround ourselves with.
Absolutely. The people you spend time with, the kind of content you consume.
Yeah.
Podcasts, books, social media.
All of it.
Yeah, it all plays a massive role in shaping your life, reinforcing your mindset, either positively or, negatively.
There's that powerful idea mentioned, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right. Think about that. If your closest circle is mostly negative or maybe just lacks ambition for growth.
It's hard to stay motivated yourself.
Incredibly hard. It can feel like swimming upstream. But conversely,
If you're around positive people.
yeah, positive goal-oriented people, their energy, their habits, it can genuinely rub off on you. It makes growth feel more normal, more possible.
So the environment isn't just physical space.
No, it's the social space, the informational space too. So based on the material, how do we consciously create a more supportive environment then? What are the suggestions?
Well, one way is curating your information diet. Like actively choose to follow inspirational people.
Online or authors?
Yeah, authors, speakers, maybe positive social media accounts that align with your goals. Just exposing yourself to those influences can subtly shift your mindset over time.
Okay, curate your input. What else?
Joining communities. The material really highlights the value of this.
Like learning groups.
Exactly. Being part of a group that values growth, whether it's for language learning, like the example, or a book club, or a personal development group.
What's the benefit?
It gives you practice partners, maybe people who understand the struggles, people to celebrate progress with. That English learning community example, finding practice partners, sharing experiences. It just shows how much a supportive group helps.
Makes sense. Any other tips for the environment?
Yeah, the flip side. Reduce exposure to negativity.
Yeah, less time with complainers.
Could be. Limiting time with people who consistently drain your energy. Or maybe cutting back on negative news or social media that just makes you feel bad, protecting your mental space.
So the right environment, it doesn't magically do the work for you.
No, but it creates momentum. It makes the path of growth feel a lot less lonely, a lot more accessible, makes it easier.
It really prompts you to ask yourself, doesn't it?
What's that?
Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Really think about it.
And are they, generally helping you move forward? Or maybe holding you back, even unintentionally?
Right. And the suggestion is maybe make some adjustments. Surround yourself with more inspiration.
Yeah, you can be a surprisingly impactful step.
Okay, wow. So we've really covered a lot of ground from this material on personal transformation.
We have. Let's recap, maybe.
Good idea. We started by looking at those common barriers, right? Why we feel stuck.
Yeah, the fear of failure, not knowing where to start, that negative self-talk.
And waiting for motivation that might never arrive first.
Then we explored the core how-to the material suggests, the power of those small, consistent actions.
The 1% rule.
Exactly. How tiny improvements compound and how habits actually shape who we become.
Then we dove deep into mindset. Absolutely crucial.
The difference between fixed and growth thinking.
Understanding that brain filter, the RAS.
And those practical tools. Affirmations, visualization, gratitude, ways to train your mind.
And we tackled that big hurdle, waiting for perfection.
Yeah, reinforcing that progress comes before confidence.
Done is better than perfect.
And just starting today to build momentum.
Finally, we explored the environment, how the people and content around us shape us.
And how to consciously cultivate a more supportive one.
And kind of woven through all of this, there was that subtle reminder, even in things like the vocabulary section.
Right. That the language we use, internally and externally, is itself a tool.
A tool for shaping our reality, for driving change.
Yeah.
So, okay, pulling all these pieces together, what's the big picture takeaway? The core message from this source material?
I think for me, the most empowering message is that you have far more control over your life, over your ability to change, than you might currently believe.
It's not about needing some, magic spark or just being born lucky.
No. It seems to be about understanding these principles, the small steps, the mindset, the action, the environment, and consistently applying them.
Little by little.
Little by little. Small, consistent actions, cultivating that supportive mindset, taking imperfect action, shaping your environment. These things, worked on consistently, can genuinely transform your life over time.
And it's important to remember, as the material emphasizes, big progress rarely happens overnight.
Right. But every single small step you take, it does get you closer to where you want to be.
And the material itself, with its resources like that PDF guide with exercises and vocab.
Yeah, it underlines that understanding and applying these ideas takes consistent effort too, just like the changes themselves.
Okay, so here's a final thought then for you, the listener, to carry with you. It builds right on that challenge from the material. What is just one small step, maybe tiny, that you can take today towards a change you want in your life? Don't put it off. Don't wait until you feel perfectly ready. Pick one tiny action and commit to doing it today.
Think you can do that? Are you up for that challenge?
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into making positive change. We really hope these insights from the material offer a helpful roadmap for your own journey.